So now we're gonna pivot to the issue of West Philippine Sea or South China Sea. So there was a move of China trying to establish power, power posturing, as we would like to call it, in the Middle East, in Afghanistan. So China has been doing some business in Iraq and now in Afghanistan. We're going to talk about oil, really. Now, just recently, as I discussed so far, China's been trying to tell Taiwan that, I'm your only ally left in this continent because America is going to abandon you. And that same propaganda statement is going to resonate across Asia, especially in Southeast Asia, because we all know that all these, nearly all of these Southeast Asian countries are having some territorial tiff or dispute with China. The Philippines, for example, except that President Duterte, abandoned Philippines' territorial dispute with China. I don't know what's going to happen to that, except that all we can say is that we've been seeing Chinese territorial expansion in the region over the past few months since the installation via fortified election of creepy pedo Joe Biden. So just like the Taliban, really, China has been waiting for President Trump to be deposed. And President Trump, according to Time magazine, a liberal news rag, a liberal propaganda outlet, Time magazine has been bragging proudly in its blockbuster news report that, hey, we the elite, the liberal elite, big tech, fake news, etc., were able to oust and depose Trump via a fortified election and install creepy pedo Joe Biden. So this is basically what they got from installing a puppet to have an unstable Middle East again and unstable Asia. So according to this news, for example, China's military surveillance ship, this was in June, aircraft spotted at contested South China Sea reef. So it's been doing this military expansion in the region since the installation of creepy pedo Joe Biden. So if we're going to read this report, as the U.S. attempts to pivot its national security focus to the Pacific, the situation in the South China Sea continues to grow more complex. China claims almost the entire area as its own and has running territorial disputes with nearly all of its neighbors, including the Philippines, of course, while tensions remain high in part due to the presence of a more aggressive People's Liberation Army Navy. Imagery reveals China building full-blown military bases in disputed seas. So, of course, it's going to include the West Philippine Sea. I would like to reiterate that it's our territory, the West Philippine Sea. So, new satellite imagery points to China building full-blown military bases on artificial islands in the South China Sea. Construction of radar antenna mounts on Mischief Reef could be part of a military installation, a report by geospatial software company Similarity claims. So, why the hell China would like to have all of this? So, China has been trying to establish partnership in the Middle East. As we all know, the Middle East is an oil-rich territory. All right, Afghanistan, Iraq, they are all rich when it comes to oil production. Now, China would also like to dominate and control the West Philippine Sea because of its impact on global trade. So that's the reason why we have this militarization. I would not like to call it West Philippine Sea. So this is where all this trade, oil trade, etc., is gonna happen. So if we're gonna check on this report, this very interesting report that I would like to share with you why China would like to control the West Philippine Sea.
The South China Sea encompasses 1.4 million square miles, making it almost 1.5 times bigger than the Mediterranean Sea. It's a key commercial gateway that sees 1/3 of the world's maritime shipping pass through it every year, accounting for more than $3 trillion in trade. Beneath the surface, the maritime life is vital to the diets and economies of the surrounding nations. Around 12% of the global fish catch comes from these waters, which also hosts more than half of the world's fishing vessels. Even further down, beneath the seabed, is the promise of natural gas and crude oil reserves. The exact amount is disputed, with both the US and China giving vastly different estimates. The US estimates that the sea holds about 190 trillion cubic feet of natural gas and 11 billion barrels of oil.
South China Sea, it's a strategic crossroads really. It links on one side the Pacific and the other side the Indian Ocean, and then north to China and south to Australia. Huge amounts of world trade go through, huge amounts of oil, most of the things that we buy in the shops.
The Chinese communists understand that he who controls the West Philippine Sea controls global trade. All right, and that's the reason why China is so adamant, so determined to occupy these naval territories, these oceanic territories in the region, because the Chinese rulers in Beijing know that it's gonna make China the superpower in the future.
Brunei, Malaysia, the Philippines, Taiwan, and Vietnam all have claims in the region. But it's China's claims that are the most contentious. China claimed more than 80% of the South China Sea.
Well, not to mention the rare earth metal industry that China now controls.
Island.
China's claim in the South China Sea emerged between 1907 and 1947, in those 40 years. And it really emerged in the context of China struggling against foreign powers in the first half of the 20th century. Against Japan, and then later against France, and then against Japan again during the Second World War. It became an emotional question. It became a time when China wanted to stand up against the world, and one way of doing that was by staking a claim to territory.
But Beijing didn't start actively asserting this claim until later in the 20th century.
It's really when oil...
Well, definitely, China has no claim. If we're going to look at the map, China has no claim at all. The only leverage that China has it's strong military influence, and the fact that it can bribe international bodies, just like it did with the WHO or World Health Organization. So in conclusion, all right, what I'm trying to say is that America under creepy pedo Joe Biden made everything a disaster after the pullout, or after the ouster of President Trump via what Time magazine called fortified election. So we've seen so far, all right, that under Trump, China was behaved as a nation, right? In fact, it was President Trump who led an investigation into the possibility that this coronavirus actually leaked from the Wuhan labs, but that was shut down by creepy pedo Joe Biden. Yes, probably you haven't heard this from your local news, because the local news in the Philippines are simply relying on liberal news wires from America, all right, all this propaganda. But the truth is, okay, creepy pedo Joe Biden shut down this investigation started by President Trump. Now, why do I sound like I'm against American occupation, imperialism, etc.? Yes, I'm against American or any type of occupation, whether it be by China, Russia, America. And that is the position of President Trump. Trump has been against American imperialism. He didn't want, or he doesn't want to have America become a global cup. But then, that sounds like contradicting the reality that we have today, that China is expanding in Asia, and some people might say that the only way to counter that is to have America have an existing occupation, military installations in Asia. I'm going to say no. What we only have is America as an independent nation, America that's not gonna meddle, really, just like what Trump did. And because of that, China became behave. But the only problem is, unlike America, which is ruled by two political parties every 4 years, China can plan long term, just like these Islamic regimes. They can plan long term. But the model created by Trump during his 4 year administration shows that by America behaving like a strong country, a country that is more focused on trade than nation building, China can be neutralized. And that's what President Trump did. And that's actually the best model. We don't have to, approve of one country having its military might present in some region like Asia or the Southeast Asia in order to counter the influence of another hostile empire, that is China. So that's all I have today. If you like this video, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. And this is again Politically Incorrect Asian Vlog, and have a good one to all of you.